Welcome friends, welcome to another day at the Edenvale Airport. So today we're going to finish up the pre-buy and the annual on that little Cessna 172B. Yesterday we spent from about 8:30 in the morning until 5:30 in the evening going through that airplane. I pulled every inspection plate and went through everything with Chris, my AME. And I think that's really important for a pre-buy, is first, you do a pre-buy on any aircraft that you're gonna purchase. And I understand right now, 2021, that's incredibly difficult because every aircraft that I went to see, by the time I could get everything together to do the pre-buy, it's sold. People were snapping them up without pre-buys. People were snapping them up and overpaying, in my estimation, anyway, for the aircraft that they were buying. And participating in the pre-buy was also really important because I've learned a lot about the aircraft. And the aircraft passed the pre-buy. It also passed its annual, pretty much. We're going to finish that up today in the hangar. But I learned a lot about this aircraft by looking in every inspection panel, by touching every component. I have gained a greater understanding of what's inside that aircraft, which I think is really important as a pilot, because a lot of pilots that I know get in the airplane, they fly it, they drop it off at the shop when something needs to be done. They don't really understand what's going on under the hood, and they don't really care what's going on under the hood. And you know, that's okay. If you're that person, that's who you are. No judgment on my part. I'm not that guy. I really want to know what's going on. I want to touch everything. So we're going to go back into the hangar. We're going to finish up the annual. There's just a couple of snags, a couple of things that need to be done. And one of the great things about airports is you find all kinds of things hanging out. This is a Snowbird's Tudor jet. Yesterday we went into this hangar right behind me and we saw a full-scale mock-up of an Avro Aero, a jet fighter prototype from the 1950s, built in Canada. Absolutely amazing. Met a terrible, ignominious end, a political end, which was horrible. So as soon as Chris shows up, we'll get back at that Cessna 172. And the other thing is, we spent all that time yesterday. If you've ever paid an aircraft mechanic, an aircraft maintenance engineer, as they're known here in Canada, they're incredibly expensive. I shot it all on a GoPro. It was fast-paced. I didn't want to slow Chris down too much, because if I slowed him down, I'm paying $100 an hour for his time. So I really wanted to try to keep up with him. So some of the footage from the last episode maybe was a little bit rough. It's going to be a little bit rough today, but hopefully we'll get it in the air.
I'm looking for aftermarket spinners and stuff.
I looked around. The spinners are unbelievably expensive for what they are.
We've got a guy, so the props, particularly the constant speed props, need overhauled,
Yep.
like every 10 years kind of thing. And so in Toronto, it's Hope Aero. They're sort of the only show in town, and they do a lot of other stuff, and they can be kind of expensive sometimes. And so there's Aviation BL, and there's a guy there who picks up the phone. And so if we have a question about something like this, it might do well to call him
To find out.
Because as much as it's a Cessna part, it's a Macaulay propeller, and so Macaulay might have a spinner assembly that's cheaper. I think of my plane where it's got an original Cessna, and it's got way too many parts for what's going on. Macaulay's got a spinner that's got 3 pieces, right? So mine's like an assembled thing, and they break and everything like that. It's not cheap. It's $3,500, right? But that said, the brand new Cessna one is like $6,000.
Yeah.
So
the question that we've been having is, there's no spinner on this aircraft, and in the type certificate, it's supposed to have one. It's been flying without one for who knows how long. Who knows? And so, do we have to put one on? And the feeling is that yes, it absolutely has to have one on, because it also helps with cooling. It helps probably with moving the air through the cowling.
Directing it, so rather than having the air, so it would redirect the air over the cylinders.
Over the cylinders. So that is one of the snags.
Probably the biggest of snags, really.
Probably, because everything else checked out really well.
Yeah.
Did you put the oil in last time?
Not yet.
Okay.
I was going to have a little look at the oil screen.
At the oil screen.
Yeah, a couple things up inside there if we can.
So because this doesn't have an oil filter, it has an oil screen. You're telling me it's a 25-hour?
That's what's recommended by Cessna.
So every 25 hours I have to change the oil and check the screen.
Yeah. Some of the guys will put on a filter adapter and then move that up to 50 hours. It's a recommendation of probably not just Cessna, probably the engine manufacturer, so Continental Engines as well. But it's not a mandatory requirement. The plane doesn't become illegal because you haven't done the oil change. I've been involved, guys, with screens that'll run 50 hours. But this engine's kind of expensive to avoid an oil change, cheap insurance.
And that's kind of what I'm thinking. So because this has been flown so little since overhaul, you know, it was overhauled in 98.
Yeah.
And it's got 223 or 225 hours or something like that. And it's been sitting for two years. I'm thinking every 25 hours, do the oil change and send the oil out for analysis to see what's going on inside that engine.
Well, so the thing about the analysis is that it can identify issues that, you know, maybe you don't want to know about. Oftentimes I have we'll do an analysis and it comes back with numbers like, you know, that they show like green or yellow or red. And so it comes back with some red numbers. The analysis guys will put a list of like 5 different things. It could be corrosion, it could be cylinder, it could be the drivetrain, it could be, you know, and basically it could be anything, you know. And so now that you know what this problem is, unless you have an unlimited budget, do we really dig in and find out? So oftentimes what's learned in the oil analysis isn't
just makes
you look at it and go, oh, now you've put in a little bit of pucker factor into your flight.
Just makes you uneasy when you're flying. But to give you sort of an idea over time of what's going on inside that engine,
it's trend analysis.
It's trend analysis.
Exactly what they're looking for. So it's not the first one or the second one. It's what they do over a long period of time.
Yeah.
Right? So initially, I would suspect, because this thing's been sitting a little bit, we're going to look around as much as we can around the engine for corrosion within it.
Yep.
Not much we can really do short of taking it right apart. And so the first time I would suspect we'll see a little bit of high ferrous content, so high steel or whatever, and they'll say, well, that might be corrosion. So we might see that kind of, and then taper off as it sort of works its way through. And then after that, we would see chromium because of the chrome cylinders. We would see, and they give us a little thing, and as time wears on, it should stay pretty even. But if it starts to increase, now we start to see on the horizon something going wrong with the engine, and maybe we think about overhauling or whatever.
So that trend analysis, I think, will put me at ease, even though it might scare me at the first time. Okay.
About 30, 35 bucks each time, something like that. And you know, the overall picture of the value of the engine and stuff, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
And you don't have to buy an oil filter, so you.
And just the cost of the oil itself is probably that much. So, is it this here, Chris? Is this what you're taking? Oh. Bless you.
Thank you.
Is that what you're taking off?
So, okay, we'll pull both of them.
Okay.
One is a pressure screen, the other is a suction screen.
Okay.
So I think that's what's in there. It's been a while since I've hauled one of these apart.
So that cable coming out goes to the oil pressure gauge.
That's temperature.
Temperature gauge.
Yeah,
Okay.
our pressure was up top with that little thin 1/8" line.
Okay. Oh, that's right. Yep.
So we gotta get them to come apart. Usually by now these things are like stripped right around here because you gotta take them apart every year.
Yep.
So it's not perfect, but it's sure in pretty good shape. Okay, we're gonna get a little bit of oil here, or we might. So that's a temperature bulb. If we put temperature to that, that'll show it on the gauge.
Okay.
Okay, and this is just a thing. Everything's dirty. We'll wash everything once we're done here. Little tire.
They couldn't have put that in a more awkward spot, could they?
They could have. No, they could have. They have. So there's the last of our oil. We're
Okay.
gonna need a bit of a wash up. So this is the screen that runs through it, right?
Okay.
And so if you come around here, and we'll check it with a magnet. See if we find it. Okay, so my little magnet here. Okay. A lot of carbon and stuff in there. See, it's not picking up. Okay. Nothing's really grabbing on it. And then down in here, see, really nothing to speak of.
No metal.
Yeah. And so we'll pull the other one. We'll clean this real good. Those are just be little carbon deposits or something, you know, given some time, the oil kind of hardens up and gets caught in little spots and it'll pick up and come out. Yeah, so everything looks good there.
Great.
Yeah. So that's the screen. And then the other one, so that's pressure, like, so the pump's going through there full pressure.
Okay.
This one here, if I remember, will be another screen with bigger holes in it. It just comes through this to the pump. If not, we'll just get a little bit more oil out of it. See? And so then it sucks in there. So the big chunks don't even make it into the pump. Then the other one catches the little chunks so they don't go through the system. Right?
Cool.
So again, we'll check this with our magnet. Then we clean everything, put it all back together. Nothing. Pretty clean.
Excellent.
Okay. And then I can stick my finger in the holes and see if I can feel anything. Any big chunks, I'll see them. Or I get my finger stuck, one or the other. Yeah, so that's okay. Same. Yeah, clean.
Excellent.
So the oil is never really used, so it's not surprising we don't have any in it.
So the engine's good until it blows up. So this is boroscoping inside the oil.
You could actually Wi-Fi hook up to me too if you wanted. It's on the Wi-Fi. Is how it is, right? So, but we'll watch if we can turn the prop here. All right, when we come around, we'll bring the apex to that. Oh, moving around here not too much. It's a tricky tool to use. Oh, lost my picture. There's one of the, like there's the lifter real close up. Come away from it a little bit so we can see a bit more. There's another one.
Okay.
There we go. So see we're coming around the apex there?
Yep.
Here, it's a little more on the prop. Right, like on a worn one, I've got a worn one in the back. Right, we would see like a definite. You see, it's not ideal. See, there's a little bit of pitting there.
Okay.
Right, but it doesn't appear to be worn off or anything like that. That's good. Like the shape of it's still there. And then there's the one behind it. That one's clean, clean. But what we're ultimately looking for here is corrosion. Mm-hmm. Right, and so we don't see it. See the apex there? Best shot. I can move my eye. I'm just not sure which way it's going to go. So you're looking up now into the crankshaft. You can see parts of the rod and stuff there.
Okay.
Right, there's no major amounts of corrosion or anything like that. Right, that apex looks pretty clean. Right. The back one wasn't ideal, but it's not worn down or anything like that. So, like from what we can see, there's no like significant like rusty engine inside there. It's pretty clean. Camshaft. Right. This comes out of a Lycoming 0320. Right?
Okay.
So the apex, see the apex there?
Yep.
And then look at this. Can you see how it's not as round as that one?
Oh, yeah.
This one here particularly.
Oh, it's flattened off completely.
Yeah, flattened off, yeah. And you can see this, the specs and stuff within it, right?
Yep.
So what happens is it starts off, here's our cam follower.
Yep.
It rides on there, pushes the valves up and down, everything like that. The corrosion process, it gets a small micron of corrosion, it wears off, small micron wears off. It's not hardened that deep, so given some time, it goes like this.
It gets soft and then
Right, that's
pitted, isn't it?
Yeah, that's extreme spalling.
Yep.
Right, and then that turns into the grinder.
Ah.
Right, that grinds off the camshaft. Right, and so that's where it goes. This is the Lycoming. Lycoming is up, right? Whereas the Continental's down. It's not up overhead cam, but it's a cam on the top side versus having the cam on the bottom side.
So has the cam in that Continental engine then been sitting in oil for 2 years? Does that help
the oil? The oil is like it would be sitting 6-7 inches above.
Above the oil.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. but it's in a better spot where, like, as the oil drips from the top of the engine, it drips down and catches on the camshaft.
Okay.
So like Homing has a camshaft up here, right? And so our push rods are on the top side.
Yep.
It's the first thing for the oil to dribble off of.
It goes off.
Whereas down here, it dribbles down onto the camshaft.
Because the camshafts are...
Yeah, the cam would be opposite to the rods here,
Yeah.
the push rods. Right? The other turns into how proficient you are. So my guy's got a guy that does it day after day after day, and his workmanship is phenomenal compared to what I can do.
Oh,
So we get the right guys in the right job to make it look right.
So how many...
We're gonna. This is it should say on the oil cap. Okay, it doesn't. This is I believe it's a 7-quart engine. So we're gonna put 7 quarts in it. It probably could run on 8, but we'll put 7 in there because if it's too high, it kind of blows around and it comes out the tailpipe or the vent line.
Okay.
So we don't want to over service it. So we put 7 in it, fly it, see where it goes, or even run it, check it again or something. But it'll find each engine will have a little home where it likes. This one might like 6 quarts, might like 6.5. You'll find that spot.
Find that spot,
time, and that's where you want to keep it.
Okay. This oil smells rather pleasant. Yeah. Oh yeah, those ones at the back were completely... So here we are, we're getting in the plane, and...
No carpet, beautiful.
Oh, yes, the minimalist, all the rest of this goes. And we're going to give it a run.
See if we're charging.
Check the charging system.
Fuel's on, mixture's rich. Next bolt.
Prime.
And pull. Low pressure. Got it? Good?
Yep, oil pressure's coming up.
Okay. The generator's actually pulled in right now already.
Okay.
We're not showing any charge here yet. So I'm gonna rev it up. Just a little bit. The generator would have a cut-in RPM.
Okay.
And so like below that RPM it won't charge, but above that it does. And so the cut-in should be around 15 to 1700. So we didn't get it there. I don't really want to go up to 2000 because it just started the engine. And so we're definitely not charging right now.
Okay.
Something's wrong. So try again here. Used to that. So yeah, we're gonna have to, I guess maybe try and flash that field again. Basically, figure out why we're not charging right now. So
Okay.
that's our next task.
So nothing coming out of the generator.
Yeah, no charge. So
of course, it's the simplest thing first. As much as this generator is probably underpowered for this plane, turns out it was just a fuse. So Chris is getting a fuse, and we're gonna put the fuse back in and see what happens.
So that's how I pumped it once?
Yep.
So that is it. Oh, it seemed a little better. Okay, so.
Okay.
11.7 generator's not running.
Yep.
Oh. 12 coming up, we're charging. Stabilized.
Yep.
Happy about our charge rate. The regulator's working the way it should.
Okay, so the verdict is in. It's worth the money I'm going to pay for it, and so I'm going to do the deal, and we'll start working on fixing up the little snags because there wasn't anything major, and then start updating the aircraft. And I'll work out a plan to rig some decent cameras in the cockpit and outside on the wing so that when we go flying, we can actually see what's going on. So, thanks for stopping by. Hope to see you again, and this channel will continue with making this a better Cessna 172B.